Hi, welcome to SBR Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. Today is the Monday after Week 9 in the NFL. We're doing our regular Monday call with SBR contributor Dave Golokhov, where he shares with us what he learned watching the games yesterday and what we might look for that might indicate betting value this upcoming week and in future weeks. Dave Golokhov, thanks for being back with us.
Hey, what's going on?
All right, Dave. First thing I have to ask you about, right? Pitt. Freaking totally awesome. Am I right or am I right? Right now, what did we learn? We learned we're going to bet on Pitt. We're going to pound Pitt every game for the rest of the regular season.
Well, we talked about this early in the season. I think it was after the first month, and I told you that this Pittsburgh team is, in my opinion, the most unpredictable team in this league. I mean, go figure, would you? If you want to bet them every game going forward, go for it. I would say buyer beware. But this team has been incredibly unpredictable. And to me, I think they're definitely a fraud. I think 2 weeks to go, playing Houston on Monday night, if Houston doesn't hand them like 6 turnovers like Halloween candy in the last 2 minutes of the first half, the Steelers probably lose that game. I know it's a bit of a stretch, but they lose that game. Who knows how they played last night? Everything is different for this team. So I think that this team is a bit phony. Even yesterday, I would even throw this out, is that Baltimore up 7, driving to midfield, fumbles. I mean, that changed the course of the game. So this is a team that's done well, living off of turnovers. Obviously, Roethlisberger throwing the ball well, but still very unpredictable. Buyer beware.
So then you didn't learn pound the hell out of Pittsburgh every week for the rest of the year. How about just pound the hell out of Pittsburgh every week at home for the rest of the regular season?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think the strategy is the same. We talked about this before. At home, small favorite, maybe under a touchdown against a weaker team. Yes. But going on the road is definitely dicey. I mean, look, they've lost at home to Tampa Bay. Explain that to me.
Right.
After watching what you just saw yesterday, explain how this team lost to Tampa Bay. And don't forget, I think it was 3 weeks ago, they got smoked by Cleveland. I mean, Cleveland struggled to beat, Cleveland lost to Jacksonville, struggled to beat Oakland, struggled to beat Tampa Bay. This is the same Pittsburgh team. Explain that one.
Well, I think I can explain it partially, which is that they were reining Big Ben in, right? They were primarily a rushing team earlier in the year. That's like the offensive game plan that they prefer. But then when they sort of unleash him to do what he wants, then he explodes as he has in the past 2 games. Presumably, that's going to be their game plan the rest of the way. So maybe we just pound the hell out of Pittsburgh overs at least going forward.
I agree with the over. I'd have to take a look at the numbers myself to see if that's in fact what's changed for the Steelers. I don't know. I know they have aired it out. But, I mean, early in the year, they were trailing in a bunch of games, too. They were throwing a lot against Baltimore in the first meeting. It didn't work. They were, what happened against Tampa Bay? Where was that aerial assault? So I don't know if that's the difference, but I do agree with the overs. I think that's my big takeaway with the Steelers.
Okay. And then the next thing we learned, if we didn't already know it, don't fade Brady and the Pats as a home dog, right? Before that game, we all heard the stats, 7-1 against the spread as a home dog. After the game, 8-1 against the spread as a home dog. Will that ever happen again? I don't know, but if it does, don't bet against them, right?
Well, I mean, what bigger evidence do you need to know than what is the streak now? 34 straight times the Pats have won at home against AFC opponents. I mean, if you see them in a pick, or even laying 1 or 2, it should be a no-brainer, never mind getting points. Yesterday was another example. This team, I think in the last few years we've seen in the first month of the season, they kind of make adjustments, get settled, have some head-scratching losses. Remember, they lost to Arizona a couple years ago at home in the first month of the year when they weren't that good. Even this year had some head-scratching performances. But colder months come, October, November, this is a team you don't want to mess with. And they've definitely got their stuff together. Again, you look at the streak, AFC teams at home just crushing it. I know you point out as a home dog, but any situation where this team is, you're asking them to just win outright, I think it makes sense to lay the points or take them as a dog.
So, the Pats have now covered 4 out of their last 5. This week they're on a bye, and you did mention before that you expected the Pats to get better as the season wore on. They did have, at the beginning of the year, I think they were 1-3 in their first 4 games against spread or something. So you were generally dead on with that call. Now they have a bye. After their bye, do you think they're going to continue to have betting value in general, or do you think that people are going to actually maybe start to overinflate their line?
Well, we have been ahead of the curve with the Patriots, and I'm going to recommend betting against them going forward. Look, Couple things. We were ahead of the curve early, but they were healthy, and we knew that or at least I didn't know, but I thought that they would get their shit together. Mm-hmm. They did. Now you still have to remember that this is still a flawed team. No Stephen Ridley. I mean, I know the offensive line has come together, but the receiving core is pretty weak still. The defense has lost some key players too. This is still a very good team, but I think they're going to be asked to be covering double-digit spreads in the future. After their bye week, I still think that this is a team that's more suited to get ahead, milk the clock, do that type of thing. I think they've been running up the score in recent weeks. I don't think we're going to see that from them when they come back from their bye, especially as the temperature gets colder.
All right, Dave. And then this next topic that we're going to talk about, I really don't want to talk about it. It's very painful for me to talk about, but my integrity as a sports betting journalist forces me to talk about it, even though I don't want to. It's the Niners, right? Now, I thought the Niners were in a great spot for a win last week. I didn't take them at -10. I took them at -7, -143. In retrospect, I guess that was a stupid as hell bet, square bet. Obviously, it lost. They were off a bye, right? They were getting a bunch of guys back on defense, a bunch of key components of their defense. They were playing the Rams, who were, having a bunch of injuries and maybe not that great to begin with. And they lost outright off their bye. So what's your take on the Niners? What did we learn from them this week? They're at the Saints getting about 4.
Well, first off, I would just say this to you, and I'd say this to all handicappers, because it's funny, you go in the forums, there's a lot of negativity when somebody has a wrong pick or somebody's off. How the hell do you predict that? How do you predict that San Francisco off a bye is going to come out and lay a complete egg?
I can tell you how. You know how you predict it?
How?
You have a frickin' model that has predictive factors in it and that has value with its predictions, and you use a model and you do what the model tells you to do, and long term you win.
I think that's crazy, but this Rams team, I mean, they played like shit and they still covered. I mean, you take a look at their numbers, awful. I think 100 passing yards for Austin Davis, 2 picks to start the game. Everything went San Francisco's way to start. Everything that they needed to make this a blowout, they failed. I just don't think you can handicap this game. Look, you laid -7. On the last play of the game, you could have at least pushed. So, how the hell do you handicap for that? That's the first thing I'd say. Second thing I'd say is, we told you so, or I told you so. Kaepernick is not an elite quarterback. He's not Russell Wilson.
Yes.
He's not Peyton Manning. I've said this many times, and I've said this when Kaepernick was taking teams to the Super Bowl. I told you so. And I don't like this guy as a starting quarterback in the NFL. I saw it at the very end of the game. Make a fucking throw to Crabtree. Make a normal throw to him on that out route. He's wide open. You're on the 1-yard line. Anybody who saw that game, or go watch the highlights. How does Kaepernick from the 1-yard line throw a pass to Crabtree where he falls inbounds and short of the goal line? Just think about that for a second. It doesn't even make sense. Kaepernick could have run that in. I mean, I just can't see. Russell Wilson would have put his life on the line to cross the goal line. Brady would have done the same. Manning would have done the same. They would have found a way. Kaepernick, time and time again, has shown you he's not great at moving the chains. Took a lot of sacks yesterday. Holds the ball for too long. And this is the difference between this 49ers team being a playoff team, being elite, and taking that next step that they failed to do in the last 3 years and being average. That's really the bottom line. It's not the running game for them anymore. The defense is average. It's got to be Kaepernick. And there's no more freaking excuses for weapons. I'm tired of hearing this. When he started in San Francisco, I get it. There was Vernon Davis and nobody else. Well, look, they've got Davis. They've got Bolden. They've got Stevie Johnson. They drafted Bruce Ellington. They got Brandon Lloyd. They got Frank Gore. They got Carlos Hyde. They got, what's his name, Vance McDonald, who's supposed to be an up-and-coming tight end. How many weapons do you need to give this guy to beat the frickin' Rams at home off a bye? It's Kaepernick's fault, and I feel kind of good saying I told you so.
All right, rest of interesting results from Week 9. Seattle again took a huge loss, -15 or whatever they were against Oakland. That was a big ATS loss. The Chargers have now lost 4 in a row against the spread. So, Dave Golokhov, what else from NFL Week 9 do you feel is worth noting for us today?
We got to talk about the Broncos. I mean, they're on the other side of that Patriots loss. Look, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Remember, you said this is the team to beat. This is, and I don't want to sound like I'm pinning this on you. A lot of people said this is the team to beat. They're better. The defense is better. The running game is better. The Manning, he hasn't missed a beat. There's more weapons. He's used to the cold now. What the hell happened to these Broncos? This is the same Broncos team as before. Nothing has changed. You talk about an improved secondary. How about 22 passing first downs, 4 passing touchdowns, no pressure on Tom Brady, 1 sack on the day. What else? 333 passing yards. This Broncos team's the same. Can't run the ball, can't play good enough defense. If they have to go on the road somewhere, including the Super Bowl on a neutral site, I just don't trust this team. There's too much on Manning, and he's got such a bad record against quality teams like the Patriots or against anybody in the playoffs. I just saw on ESPN his winning percentage from the regular season to the playoffs drops more than any other quarterback in NFL history, nearly 300 percentage points. So Broncos are still the same old team in my opinion. And I think that's a really big takeaway. Anybody betting futures, you got to be worried.
All right. Anything else that you want to discuss that you feel is noteworthy from NFL Week 9, Dave Golokhov?
One last thing, Arizona Cardinals. Pete, we never talk about this team. I don't think anybody talks about this team. How impressive are they? This is not a fucking bogus team. They beat San Diego. They beat San Francisco. Okay, I know San Diego sucks now. San Francisco sucks now. But they beat Dallas. Okay, I know Dallas without Tony Romo. But look, this team has gone through injuries. How many other teams in the NFL do you hear, oh, they're banged up, they lost because of injuries? Listen, no team has lost more players from their defense in that front 7 than Arizona. You talk about losing your starting quarterback. Oh, the Cowboys, they lost because of Romo. The Redskins aren't as good without RG. Listen, Arizona went on the road to New York to the Giants with Drew Stanton. They beat San Francisco with Drew Stanton. The Cardinals are now 12-2 with Carson Palmer in the last 14 games as a starting quarterback. Nobody talks about this team. The defense has allowed 19.5 points per game, and that's including their blowout loss in Denver where they gave up 40. So they're actually allowing like 15 a game. This team is impressive. I call them the Carolina Panthers of this year. They have a really good shot to get home field advantage in the playoffs. I can't believe that this team is first. This team has the best record in the NFL. Just let that sink in for a second.
Yeah. All right, but Dave Golokhov, this is a gambling show, and we're talking about possible betting value going forward. So you're very impressed with Arizona. Great, good for you. Does that mean that you think that you expect them to have betting value in general going forward?
I do, yes.
Okay.
The reason I'm bringing it up is because nobody talks about this team. People are still hesitant to bet this team. Think what just happened last week. Romo doesn't play, and the Cowboys are what? I mean, Arizona should have been a bigger favorite. In short, that's what I'm saying. You got the best team in the NFC going on the road to Dallas, who just, short week, backup quarterback, and Arizona is, what were they laying? What was it by game time? 3? They don't get enough love. You get value with them on point spreads. Tough to beat at home. They cover spreads. I do like this Cardinals team from a betting perspective.
All right. Well, Dave Golokhov, this week, right? Arizona, I believe they're at home against the Rams. The line is about a touchdown, -7. The Rams have burned anyone who bet on Seattle when they beat Seattle. They beat the Niners. But sandwiched in between those games, they got blown out at KC. They were a great bet against. You think this is a similar situation to the KC game?
Yeah, this is a perfect example of the Cardinals being undervalued. Let's just say that San Francisco was 7-1 this year, coming off a big win versus Dallas, primetime game, or, not primetime, but spotlight game of the week. And they come home to face this Rams team. They're going to be laying 10. Honestly, tell me, Patriots are probably laying 10. I know that Arizona is not the Patriots. They're not Denver. They're not San Francisco from last year. But still, this team has proven itself already. They're 7-1. They're great at home. 7 points to me makes a lot of sense.
Right.
I would lay the points here. You got the Rams. This is their 3rd straight road game, coming off an emotional win last week. Makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, but they beat Seattle outright. They beat the Niners outright. They got like 8 sacks on Kaepernick or whatever it was last week. Their defense is looking awesome. So I can understand why, this line wouldn't be in the stratosphere. I mean, they're not like, the Jags or Oakland.
You honestly think the Cardinals shouldn't be laying more than 7 points?
I have no idea. Obviously, I have no idea. I'm far from
top team in the NFL, not even the NFC. Best record in the NFL right now, hosting Austin Davis and basically backups. Okay, I know the Rams played well last week in San Francisco. I wouldn't even say that. I wouldn't say that. The Rams defense played well.
Right.
The defensive line, and we already went through that. A lot of that was Kaepernick and him being a mess. If Arizona is mildly competent this week, they cover the 7.
Dave Golokhov, SBR contributor. Thanks so much. Awesome call, and we will talk to you next Monday.
The SBR Network offers free sports picks and game breakdowns, big money free betting contests year-round, a real-time Vegas-style odds monitoring service, and much more. So come see for yourself. To stay updated on SBR news and promotions, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Google+, and do be sure to subscribe to the Sportsbook Review YouTube channel to catch all our daily sports shows.